Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Just a quick introduction of what I'm going to be doing today. I mentioned in the video walking around the office the other day that there is quite a lot of dust in the PC. So I'm going to be doing a teardown and tackling that tonight, which I'm going to film. I've got the Grumpy Golfer here to film that, show you how I tackle things. You might have other ways, but you can let me know and let me know what you think of the way I've done it. But that's what I'll be doing tonight. So have a look at the PC case and the disgustingness in there, and then I'll show you what I'm going to use to tackle the job.
Should have took the side off, get it right.
So as you can see, I've got the side on the case still, so you know this is obviously isn't showing the full extent of it, but that's the one side of the cooler. That's at the bottom of the case, so there's a fair bit of build up. This has probably been on the floor for almost 2 years, and it's now just come off the floor with the new desk being installed. So that's that. There's quite a lot of dust on the actual inside of the glass as well on the case, so that'll be getting cleaned. I've noticed it's got really quite loud, and I'm expecting that's down to the amount of dust and junk that's probably built up on the fans at the back. So this case is a Fantex Enthoo Lux, and that comes with a 200mm fan in the front, the 140mm Noctua fan that's on the CPU cooler, and the exhaust fan that's on the back, which is a Fantex one that came with the case. The other day I actually stopped the one in the front and stopped the one in the back to see how much quieter it was just with the CPU cooler running, and the answer was significantly quieter. So I'm expecting that there's quite a lot of dust build up in the case that will hopefully quieten things down once it's cleaned out, because if it doesn't, I think I'm going to end up buying some more Noctua fans for the front and the back, because they seem to be a lot quieter than the fans that came in the case. But that's the intro, so here we go. This is what I'm aiming to remove from the case tonight. I'll be using compressed gas. I've got a couple of these to use on it tonight to blow the stuff out. And I've also got a new attachment for the vacuum cleaner, which has like sort of like 10 or 11 straws. It's almost like stuck together that fit into the vacuum, so you can get into tight places. So I may be using that in some parts of the case where there's loose dust, just to collect that, but we'll see. But I'm going to strip it down, take it downstairs, and film cleaning that in a little while. Yeah. Right guys, so I brought the PC downstairs to the conservatory because I've got the Grumpy Golfer with me, and it's Masters Saturday. He wouldn't be very happy if I made him sit upstairs in the office cleaning this. So we've got the golf on mute. They're not actually playing at the minute, so I don't really know what we're watching. And I'm going to tear this down, give it a clean out, and go from there. So first things first, that a lot of cases now seem to have that they didn't always have, are dust filters. Now I don't know if you can see that. Pretty disgusting. This is from where the power supply was sat on the floor. The power supply itself doesn't seem too bad. Doesn't seem to be too much dust on there. So I'll probably just give that a blast with the compressed air in a minute. And then there's also a filter on the front here, which isn't as bad, and that's mainly because there aren't any fans on the bottom of that part of the case at the moment. There may be, because I am thinking about changing my setup and going to a water-cooled solution rather than an air-cooled CPU cooler, because it's mainly because it's quieter. Done a lot of research. They're not actually any more efficient at dissipating heat, because water retains heat for longer than air. So a lot of gamers will go, oh, water cooling is loads better, because they don't see the immediate spike in temperature that you see with air cooling. But what you will see after a gaming session of an hour is that that temperature, even if you let the computer go back to idling, will take longer to dissipate the heat, because water holds on to heat longer than air. So I may go down that route, I'm not sure yet. My plan at the minute is to try and clear all the dust out of this to get it running as well as I can. See if the fans that are in it quieten down. If they do, happy days. If they don't, then probably going to replace some fans first before looking at changing the cooler, because it is a bit of a beast of a cooler anyway. So the first thing I'm going to do, before, rather than wasting compressed air, which is in a can, is just there's still some left on that because it's quite a fine mesh, so I'll just give it a little blaster. shifted any of that. Not going to bother hoovering the other one because I say it's fairly clear, so I'll just give that a quick. The key with this is not to use it in lots of long blasts. I found that out using them in the past, that if you just use it quite constantly, you'll find that the cam gets really cold and runs out really quickly. And if you just use it in short, sharp bursts, it tends to last a bit better. So that's those done. I'm just going to run the hoover over the base of the case, get any dust out the power supply. That's pretty much ready for the filters on the power supply to go back on. This is the hoover attachment that I've just bought. Like I say, it's loads of straws, but what it's really good for is just getting into nooks and crannies, basically. You can actually go into the Now, I don't know if that got any more out of the case that was in there. Didn't seem to have. There's not a load in there, but you know, every little helps sort of thing. So I'm going to put the filters back on. And they just clip in and lock. If you put them in the right way around, they clip in and lock. Okay. So that's all at the back. So that will just, there's a cut out there. So that's sort of locked in. And then this one's got the similar sort of cutouts as well, so that will just lock in as well. So that's the bottom now, fully dust protected. I'm expecting now it's going to be off the floor that it shouldn't have the same sort of problem. So a couple of thumb screws to get the case door off. Now there's quite a bit of dust gathered up in here. I'll sort that out in a bit because I'm actually going to get the glass polish onto the case window, because I think there's a lot of marks that come out. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to remove a few bits here to aid with the cleaning. So I think I'm going to actually take the graphics card out of the machine. Most of the dust buildup seems to be around the fan housing, as you'd expect. You know, that's moving the air, you'd expect that to get a fair bit of build up, so hopefully I can quickly deal with most of it. If you remember with these cards in the PCI Express, especially something like the GTX 970, they're a bit of a pain because they lock in. I just also pulled the USB header out, the Bluetooth card, that's back in now, so that's fine. So I feel quite a bit of dust on this, so I'm going to give that a bit of a blast on the back and the front. You can see a bit of dust, not major amounts of dust on the fans. They face down to the floor, so not too bad, but I'll give them a good blast over to get rid of anything. The key thing really is to try and stop the fans from spinning, because as cool as it looks having the fans spin up at high speed, it's no good for the bearings. Quite a lot come off that, so I think I'm not going to give that a bit of time to sort of dry off, because there's always a bit of moisture with these things, can't really be avoided. The next bit I want to tackle is the rear case fan. Now this thing is filthy. This runs as an exhaust fan, so every time the PC's on, it's running all the time. Whereas with the graphics card, what tends to happen with that is that actually only comes on when it's under load and has a heat spike and needs to cool. So that's why they're relatively clean, because they're not on that often, if I'm honest. So, bit of a problem here. The way this motherboard works is that the actual fan is plugged to the back of the motherboard into a fan controller header that is on the board. So this isn't ideal because what I don't really want to do is unplug all of that. I think I'm going to need to.
I'll hold it.
So yeah, what I need to do is actually stand the case up because it's plugged into the back of the board. So if we stand it up first, I was hoping, it wasn't ideal, I was hoping to get away without having to take the back side of the case off, but not going to be so lucky. Now this is the side of the case that hides everything, that hides all the cable management and stuff. So I've never professed to be fantastic at cable management, and as you can see there, does the job. You can't see it. There's actually quite a lot of dust on the cable, so probably a good idea I've pulled this apart to give it a blast. Oh, that's a different fan that I've just unplugged. Where's this fan? Oh, okay, so I took quite an odd route with that one. It's quite important to be relatively careful with these because they're only little pin connectors, not particularly strong, but there we go. It didn't want to come off. So yeah, this is the side of the case you'll rarely see, but that's the 480 SanDisk with Windows on, and that's the Kingston. No, that's the 480 with Mac OS on. That's the 480 with Windows on. So as I said, this is pretty disgusting. 2 years being sat on the floor. I'm hoping it's going to clean off quite easily. But what I'm actually going to do is get the company golfer to follow me outside because I don't want that much dust basically being blown off here and going back into the machine. Now getting to the point really where I need to let the can warm up again. It's getting icy cold. I don't know if you can hear, but the compression isn't as good as it was when it was. I need to give that a break to warm up. You can hear there's hardly any pressure in that, so we'll let that warm back up and work out the next step. Quite pleased with that. Most of that's come off. What I'd normally do here is just probably give it a bit of a wipe with a damp cloth and leave it to dry out. I'm not sure everyone would recommend doing that, water and electrics and so on, but my view is if you give it plenty of time to dry out, shouldn't be a problem. But to be fair, the majority of dust is off of that. So I'm going to pause there, let the can warm up, and I'll think about the next bit I want to clean and what I want to do. Right guys, so I finished cleaning the exhaust fan at the back of the case. I actually resorted, and I hadn't thought of doing this before, but it seems to have worked quite well at shifting the last bit of stubborn dust. And it's a fairly flexible paintbrush that hasn't been used. Wouldn't advise using something that's been in a tin of gloss and then putting it on your PC parts, but get a fresh paintbrush and it just allows you to really, you know, get it in and brush any dust off. So that's come up, I would say, it's not 100% because once you've got dust on it, dust will always stick and get engraved into the plastic. So you're not going to get it 100% like new, but it's good enough and hopefully that will quieten it down. So that can go back in the case shortly. The graphics card, I'm actually going to do the same thing on that, just to give the fans a bit of a brush just to make sure I've got the last bits off that. There isn't, as I said before, there isn't really much on the graphics cards anyway, and most of the dust, all of the dust, got blown off the back when I used the compressed air, so I don't need to worry about the graphics cards too much. Graphics card, not rich enough to have two, but that's that. I think what I'm going to do on the back is probably just give it a blast of compressed air. If you can have a look at that 200mm fan there, I don't know if you can get in and see it. Might be better off from the other side. I'm actually going to take that out of the case now to give that a clean, because that is absolutely filthy. So I'm going to take the front of the case off. I'm not going to film me doing that because I'm just, you don't need to see that. Pop the case off, take the 200mm fan out, which I can clean that. Then I'm going to do the CPU cooler. I'm not taking that off because it's relatively new thermal paste on there, so I don't want to disturb that. So I'm going to give that a blast, give it all then a blast with the compressed air, make sure I've got everything out, and then I'll start putting it back together. Cheers guys, and I'll catch up with you in a bit. This is the state of the 200mm Fantex case fan that is at the front of the case. Pretty disgusting. So first thing I'm going to do, unfortunately I can't unplug it. I need to have a look to try and unplug it because it's all cable managed to an extent back here. I know it's not the neatest of jobs. Any of you guys that watch people like z97 or J2 whatever his name is, or Linus Tech Tips, you know, those guys know what they're doing. This is me just, you know, trying my best to make it look tidy. I'm quite happy with how it looks in the front of the case. Relatively tidy. I have managed to just wiggle this free. Now this case fan was ridiculously noisy, and I think it may well be to do with the dust, but I maintain that what my plan will be is to clean this up now as well as the rest of the PC, and then put it together, see if it's quieter. If it is, happy days. If it's not, I'll be looking to replace the fans, possibly go water cooling if that's going to be quieter, but certainly replace the exhaust and the intake fan to nocturnal ones, which seem to be a bit quieter. So I'm going to time lapse this bit just because it's something different we haven't tried, but we're going to go outside again because I don't want all this dust in here. Took the fan out of the CPU cooler to clean that off. That's come up pretty much spot on. I mean, there wasn't that much on there, to be fair, because that fan sits in between the two cooler towers. But the cooler tower, the front one, I've already sort of given it a bit of a clean off with this Hoover attachment. So there's quite a lot on this second tower that I'm going to try and get what I can off with this, but I think this is going to be more a job for the compressed air, to be honest. Definitely not going to get all of that off just with this Hoover attachment. What I might do, where's my paintbrush? There it is, my trusty paintbrush that's become my new best friend. You can see how much is coming out there now actually. A huge amount dropping down onto the bottom of the case, which I can back up. Probably the best way of doing it, and then I'll just give it a blast with the compressed air, so hopefully we'll have got the majority of it out. I think this could make quite a difference to my temperatures that is running, because although there's good thermal compound on this, it's very, very dusty. The back not so much, because as you'd expect that's the exhaust side, so everything else has caught it up. There's now quite a lot of dust there in the bottom of the case getting to pick up. And I don't know if you can see into the Dyson, it's just dust. There's a fair little, considering how small the PC is, it's a fair bit in there. So I'm just going to give the cooler housing a spray. See if I can get any more out. Seems to be a little bit more coming out. just actually going to finish off really, giving the board a quick blast down. Some people don't recommend this stuff. All I recommend is that if you've used it, don't plug anything in for a good 8-9 hours. Make sure it's fully dried out, is what I'll be doing. So, there's actually a lot of dust there on the back of on the inside of this casing as well. Again, brush that off and hoover it. That's fully cleaned down now. I feel there is a bit of moisture on there because of how long I had the compressed air on there. So I'm going to stop now, watch a bit of golf with Graham and have my dinner, and then put it back together, and I'll probably switch it on tomorrow and make sure everything's okay. I've got to clean up the side panel as well, which I'm just going to use glass cleaner. Not going to bother filming that. I'm sure you've seen glass get cleaned before. And yeah, so that is how I clean a PC. One thing I would advise is don't leave it for 2 years. I thought my office was far cleaner than it obviously was, and you know, my office is clean. My wife makes sure that I don't keep it as a mess most of the time, but obviously there is a huge amount of dust in there that you can do very little to mitigate against. All you can do is clean it out every 6 months. I would say is probably a good idea. Wouldn't have that level of dust build up. I'm hoping now it's not going to be on the floor, that it's going to actually be off the desk, that it won't get as much dust in there because it's on an elevated platform, and if it does get dusty I'll see it building up, so I can keep on top of it. But that's just a quick overview. What I'll do, I'll probably do another short video just to show you it all back together and all cleaned up without dust, looking nice back in its normal location. So cheers for now guys, and I'll catch you soon. So guys, you've seen me clean up the PC. Done a bit of time lapse to see if that was a bit different. Had a bit of fun with that. Cleaned it all up, and it was running marginally quieter, but I think I just really hadn't noticed how loud the machine was because it's been on the floor. And I think ultimately that the problem was that the case comes with its own fan controller unit, fan header. So rather than plugging the fans into the motherboard, you plug them into this fan controller on the back. It allows for better cable management, theoretically, and you then control the fan speeds through the software that you get within Windows. In theory, I'm sure that works fantastically well, but I don't really use Windows. And once you've set something in Windows, if you come out and go into Mac OS or into Linux or into anything else, it's not going to remember those settings because it's part of the case rather than the motherboard. Now, my case only has three fans. It's got the one 200mm at the front, one 140mm on the CPU cooler, and then one 140mm at the back. So I actually disconnected them all from the fan controller that was on the back of the case, and I've plugged them in to the main board. So the CPU fan is on the CPU header, the front case fan is on a CPU optional, and the rear case fan is on another header. I think there's another header on the board if I wanted to use it as well, if I wanted to add in a fourth fan potentially. What I've been able to do then is go into the BIOS and actually set it so that the front case fan and the rear case fan only come on when the system hits 55-60 degrees, which when you're just browsing the internet, watching videos, etc, isn't likely to happen that often. If you're gaming, that's where you'll see the temperature spikes, and that's where the fans will come in and help to dissipate the heat. But if I don't need them running all the time, I'm not going to have them running all the time. And this is recorded on my webcam using the microphone that's quite near the PC, and it's virtually silent. I think the CPU fan is running at about 350 RPM, so much quieter. I think I might still change the case fans to Noctua fans rather than the Fantex ones, because even when they are running at full speed, the Noctua fans do seem to be much quieter. So I don't know if that's down to
design for airflow efficiencies or whatever, but it does seem to be quieter. But being able to have it so that all you've got running is the CPU fan at 350 RPM. Occasionally I can hear the hard drive whirring away, but unless you go full solid state, you're not going to stop that, and I can't afford to go for a 1 terabyte or more solid state drive at this point. So yeah, so that's the summary: is keep your PC clean, follow the guide I've done, or plenty of others that are on YouTube. Just be careful using the compressed air, as I said. Don't get too close. You don't want to be blowing any capacitors off the board or anything like that. Cleaning fans, paintbrush I've found is the best thing to get into all the nooks and crannies, and then make sure you hoover it up and take your time. And looking at the case now, it's much cleaner, much quieter. It's off the floor, so I'm hoping that it's not going to get as filled with dust, but I'll keep an eye on that and continue to clean it when it does. So I hope that you've found the guide useful, helpful, giving you some ideas. If you want any further info, please let me know, and I'll see you in the next one. Like and subscribe, guys. Cheers.